Just wow. Yes, so Hairless here. Today we are back with YAMANDU COSTA and this is Por una Cabeza. This is the same name as a rather famous song from the 1930s by Carlos Gardel. The title originally references a horse racing term meaning to lose by a head. The original song has lyrics comparing a horse race gambler's addiction to his passion for women. The tune itself is very famous though, and I feel even more so is the instrumental version. It is a tango. I was curious because of the title if this was an original composition by YAMANDU or not, but apparently it's his interpretation of this famous tune. So I'm excited to see what he does here with his majestic guitar playing. Will he stay quite true to the original song in terms of style? Will he deviate away in terms of style via his rapid playing and technical intricacies? Who knows? I've only heard YAMANDU play 3 times before. If you want to see my reaction to hearing YAMANDU play for the first ever time, please do check that out. That was Samba Pro Rafa. Card for that will be up here. And each time I've heard him, the music has been quite different in style. We've seen crazy, we've seen calm and soulful, we've even heard him sing a little bit. So I don't really know what to expect here because this is the first time I'm hearing him not play an original composition. The possibilities I think are endless, so let's just get straight into it. Alright, this is, YAMANDU COSTA. It's quite a short performance overall, we're already halfway through, so I think let's just listen to the end and then we'll go over the analysis afterwards. Interesting though, he's doing some really cool things here to change up the original song. I'll just go back a few seconds and then we'll carry on. Man, he's unbelievable. Yeah, another amazing performance by YAMANDU. I really like him. He just keeps us on our toes, never knowing what to expect next, what's going to happen next. The variety of techniques he uses is staggering, really. I mean, let's go back over the analysis now, and I'm sure we'll talk about all these things as we progress through. Straight away, the opening, we get this chromatic idea sliding up the frets, which is always a prominent feature of his playing, at least from the few times I've seen him so far. This is in the original song, but with YAMANDU, just seems a bit more chromatic, if I can say that. I think I've just come to expect this from him, so I'm really, really listening out for it. I think chromaticism in general can be a very powerful tool in music. Just a simple slide between two neighbouring notes can mean so much and really convey a lot of emotion. In the comments to my previous YAMANDU videos, many people have said chromaticism is a big feature of this type of music. So then, just about 5 seconds in, we get our first real YAMANDU-ism. He's making the song his own. This is the first stylistic change that we see. A muted, quick strum, which immediately changes the feel of the music. Up until this point, the music has been quite free-flowing and smooth. So we get this muted strum, and then we get these quick, plucked staccato notes. It's quite playful, before we then continue with this smooth idea, which is exaggerated by chromatic slides. That immediately goes into this rather exaggerated slide just on the one string. And I find this funny because you'll notice how he moves his finger. This is to create vibrato on the note. But because of the relatively short length of the note, we actually hear more of the friction between the string and the fretboard, rather than this wobble in sound. Sounds like scratching. Naturally, I think this gives the music, the performance, a bit more of a raw feel, a less pretentious feel. To compare this to an example of a video for the music. This is a ball, a setting of high social status, of pretension. I know this is a TV show, but I think my point stands. Again, just after that, we get this idea of chromaticism. I need to stop pointing out every time this happens because it happens so frequently. But here's an example of how YAMANDU treats chromaticism differently. Just one pluck and then he manages to slide through 4 notes in 2 different lines of parallel motion. It's a nice effect this, the weakening of sound naturally as he slides down. From a harmonic perspective, so the notes that we're hearing, I wanted to point out this bit where he plucks 2 notes. These notes that he plucks, they are to act as a kind of background resonating noise whilst he continues to play on other strings. We hear these 2 notes play out until their natural end. Of course, being YAMANDU, he chooses 2 dissonant notes for this. These are the notes that we hear. But not too dissonant, it's a subtle and sweet dissonance. Enough to keep this modern feel to the music whilst continuing with a rather classic melody. And then to kind of finish this first section, we hear this low note in the bass. This E down there, with bass notes being quite a prominent feature of the tango, really driving the harmonic direction, which chords we're hearing and expecting to hear. But when he plays that low note, and even though it's just for a brief moment, again YAMANDU is ensuring we have a tiny bit of dissonance, extremely subtle. The notes that we're hearing are these. It's these 2 notes, if we move them close together, that clash, even though it's just for a passing moment, before then finishing very diatonically, which means as we'd expect based on the scale. There are no funky or strange notes. Okay, and now we hear a change to the next section, which is more of a minor section. Before things were happy, jumpy, with a bit more oomph, more major overall. Major is usually happy, minor is usually sad. So this next section contrasts what we've just been hearing. Overall, things are much slower. Maybe I can use the word calmer. Typically, when chords are played, every note is played at the same time. Notice how for this one, they're pretty much 2 completely separate notes. YAMANDU is putting a significant delay between the 2 notes, which to me is a sign of melancholy, almost as if you're so emotionally tired that you don't have the liveliness to manage playing 2 notes at the same time. It's just something that stands out to me. I think really adds a lot of effect to the overall mood of the music, something so small like that. We also hear tempo rubato, which literally means robbed time. It's where you play with much more rhythmic freedom. You're not just strictly playing to the beat. Of course, he makes sure that we move into these chromatic slides. And then to really hone in on this chromaticism, I want you to listen out to the lowest note that we're hearing. Did you hear there how he repeated this note? So he moved down, repeated that note. He's making sure that we are remembering this is the lowest note we've heard recently. He then moves up into the upper registers of guitar to play this little section, and then returns to the note just below that repeated note to continue with this chromatic descending bass line. So he's making sure that we're hearing this chromatic descending bass line acting as the harmonic foundation, even though he temporarily leaves it. And this bass line, which he's making sure that we're really listening to, leads into this next bit. I think let's just listen to it. It's quite bass heavy, there's more depth to it, there's a kind of a darker sound, it's louder, changes in his tempo, in his rhythms. Those 15 seconds or so, the mood is completely changed. It's much more manic sounding, disjointed, very chromatic heavy. This is a bit more like Choro Loco, my second reaction. Card for that will be up here. Unfortunately, a fair number of people were not the biggest fans of that performance by Yamandu. I think due to its chaotic nature maybe. But you know, the few times that I've seen Yamandu, he can do everything. He's a true master of his craft, which is the guitar. For anyone who doesn't know, most guitars are 6 strings like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least that's the common guitar in the Western world. His extra string comes at the bottom, so he has more access to even lower notes. This section that we just listened to, he does use this bottom string now. So we're going lower than we've heard before, adding to this overall changed feel. Going right down to 1 octave down, of course. So after that section, we are now hearing similar to what we were before, but again, a bit more boisterous. If you've been sleeping until this point, you will be sleeping no more. You will wake up. We have these loud, low, plucked bass notes. The song feels a bit more energized. And Yamandu, to me, seems to love the idea of contrast. Not just overall, like a slow section, then a quick section, then a slow section. I'm talking within time frames of several seconds. So the bit I'm about to play, it's all about the disjointed staccato chords that are moving around. And then we immediately move into a smoother feel without any warning. He's keeping us on our toes, making sure that we don't know what to expect, what's going to come next. Right, just after that we got this bit, and I needed to rewatch this a couple of times. The first time I heard it earlier, I thought that maybe my computer was lagging or the speed had accidentally gone to 1.25 times. No, that's real. The speed with which he is playing and the accuracy whilst being able to implement dynamic variety is astounding. I will never understand it. And he looks like he's making no effort to do this. Just wow. Next main thing for me was these muted chords that we get. So they seem a bit stunted before we then return to a more melancholy section, to use the same word I used before. This time he makes some changes for variety because it's a repeated melody. The obvious one is being the melodic changes. Let's listen to them again. You know how he's expanding the register. He's moving higher than we've gone before. The sole aim here is just to completely transform these melodies. And then just after that, yeah, I mean, we get this kind of mix and matching of a bunch of previous techniques we've spoken about. It creates this kind of, I can't think of a word other than cacophony, and I don't want to use that word because it implies an intense kind of mess or chaos or harshness to the sound. I guess this is a harsher sound to previously, but here I just mean there's a big mix of everything that seems quite irregular and unstructured and perhaps a bit improvisatory. And in particular, I really loved the strummed chords. These strummed chords are indicating we're approaching an end. He's teasing us though, because I feel like we're kind of expecting him to end with some grandiose chords. Maybe just like a perfect cadence at the end, 5-1. Or a dominant 7th into A minor. But no, he goes back to the more disjointed, staccato, slightly manic playing. A lot of muted notes, the strings aren't allowed to resonate. It's a more reserved sound, even on the last chord. So let's have a listen to this last section. He makes sure to keep us in this realm of unexpectedness right until the end. I don't have anything more to say. He's just so masterful. It's a real pleasure to watch him play. I've received comments in my previous YAMANDU videos of people saying they've seen him live. I'm extremely jealous. It must have been so cool. Right, well, let's leave it there. Thank you to everyone who recommended this one. Please let me know which other performances by YAMANDU you'd like me to react to. Thank you very much for watching. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me and vote on future polls, you can do so by joining my Patreon or YouTube membership linked below, and I will see you next time.